Hello, in our today's video, let us understand how to build this simple Wi-Fi controlled car. To begin with, let's understand what all the different components are being used in this project. The first one is the Nodemcu, which is a Wi-Fi module. And then we have the L298N DC motor driver that is used to control the DC motor. And here we have the DC gear motor, which can work at a voltage of 3 to 6 volts. And then we have a pair of 3.7 volts lithium batteries, so which gives an output of 7.5 volts. So this 7.5 volts output is given as an input for this L298N module, and this L298N gives an output of 5 volts. So we can use the 5 volts to power this Nodemcu, as well as we are using the SG90 micro servo motor at the front to control the front wheel's direction towards left and right as a steering. So to power that also, we use 5 volts from this L298N module directly. And then we have the breadboard on which all the jumper wires are connected from the Nodemcu. So these are the basic components that are being used. So let's start making it work now. To make it work, I need to have a Wi-Fi device, that is a mobile phone. And also I have programmed this Nodemcu to become a server. So now I take my mobile phone here and I just type the server address that is written over here. Just I click on that. And now this is the dashboard from which we can control the Wi-Fi car. Right, so now forward and backward is for the back wheels, and here left on and right on is for the steering for the servo motor at the front. So let's see how it works. So when I click the forward on, we can see the wheels rotates. All right, so when I click the forward off again, it becomes off. Same for backward on and backward off. So for left on is for the front wheels. So left on and left off, and again right on and right off is for front wheels. All right, so this is how we control the Wi-Fi car. So in detail, let's understand the circuit with a circuit diagram. Thank you. So this is the circuit diagram of our project. So in this, let's see what all the different components that we have. The first one is the Nodemcu and the L298N module, and a DC gear motor and micro servo motor and lithium batteries. So here the lithium batteries gives an output of 7.5 volts. So now that 7.5 volts is connected as an input to this L298N module to the pins plus 12 volt and ground. As an output, we get a 5 volts, and this 5 volts is used to power the Nodemcu as well as the micro servo motor. And the same L298N module powers the DC gear motor as it's connected to the out 1 and out 2 of that same. So these are the connections, and then finally the ground of this micro servo motor and the lithium batteries and Nodemcu are connected together, and it's now connected to the pin G and D. So these are the different connections for these components. So now let's see the program. So this is the program for our project. So we always start with declaring the variable. So we make a variable called header. In that I define the file type as HTML, and I make another string variable that is HTML1, and I define the contents of our web page in it. So that string ends here, and here then we start by declaring the libraries. Here we need to include the Wi-Fi library for the Nodemcu and the servo library for controlling the servo motor. And I make two integers, that is for motor pin forward and motor pin backward. And I declare D0 and D1 digital pins of Nodemcu to it. And the servo pin is declared as D2, that is the digital 2 pin for that integer variable server pin. So we have declared three variables. Then we make a name called server1 for the server, and then we make a string called a request, right? So here in this SSID and password character, yeah, so we define your Wi-Fi ID and password for this character variable. So I just mentioned it as star. So you need to type your home Wi-Fi network ID and Wi-Fi password, right? And then we define the server port number as 80 for the Wi-Fi server. Now, so in the setup, we do all the initial conditions required for our project. So we start with server1 dot attach the server pin, that is the D2. Here we have the D2. And then server1 dot write of 90 means it will set the angle to 90 degrees, that is turning straight. So this is for initial calibration for our project to make the initial settings to make the servo motor to turn straight. And then we define the motor pin forward and motor pin backward variables as an output using the pin mode function. And then in the digital write, I make this motor pin forward and motor pin backward as high. So when I set high, it will turn off the motor. So low, making it low will turn on the motor. So we are using two directions for the same motor pin forward and motor pin backward. Right. So now, we make serial.begin to start the serial monitor, and then we print the title of our project, then the status of our connection, and then finally it will the Nodemcu will print the IP address of it on the serial monitor using serial.print Wi-Fi.local IP, and finally it will give an indication that server has started. So in this void loop, we say the Nodemcu to do a function, like what to do when the Nodemcu starts. So here we make Wi-Fi client.server is available. We check whether the client is connected using the line. So if it is connected, let's see what happens. So first of all, the web page here, yeah, the client.flush, then client.print header and client.print HTML will make the client to be displayed with the web page on the mobile phone using Wi-Fi. So once the Wi-Fi is connected and you request for that web page using that IP address, so now this HTML string, whatever the contents that are there on this HTML1 string will be displayed on the mobile. So here, this is the content. So on the content of the web page, the user will get the 4 buttons, that is forward button, backward button, left button, and right button. So we have made an ID for the forward button, and we have the value as forward on. So we have on click event as switch forward. So let's say that the user has pressed the forward on button. So this will trigger this switch forward function. So let's see what is there in that function. So we have defined that function inside the script. So now we make a button text variable, and using that button text variable, we get the forward button, and using the ID, and we get the value of that forward button. As the value is already forward on, it will check whether the value got from the button is equal to forward on. So in that case, it will trigger this function called Ajax load, and it will pass a value called forward on in caps. So now I need to look for this Ajax load function. Right, so this Ajax load function is over here. So now Ajax flow.forward on will be sent in this as a parameter. Now here we use a technique, we use a web page technique called Ajax. So Ajax is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It is used to update the data on the web page without reloading the web page. So that is the technique that we are using here. So now, so once this function is triggered, it will get into this line here. That is a function of Ajax request. That is Ajax request.open. We use a get method and we pass that Ajax URL, that is the forward on and true. So now, and then finally, we make Ajax request.send, send. So what happens here is that, so now this Ajax request will send a request and it will wait for a response. During that time, the program will now come to this line over here. So we have inside this void loop, we have made a string request, and this string request will always look for client.read string until /r. So it will look for a change, whether they are requesting any requesting by sending any value. So now the value has been sent is forward on. So now, so once that request forward on is received, so it will now now what happens here is that this line will be triggered. So now it will check for the occurrence of the forward on using request.indexOf, and it's because it's 1 as it is greater than 0. Now we make the digital write, that is the motor pin forward to low. So automatically it sets the motor to turn on, and then we print the header, and then we also print forward is on the client page. So now this Ajax request will be looking for a response. So now this is the place where we receive the response from the Ajax. Right. Yeah, so this is the place where we get the result. So we make a variable called Ajax result, and Ajax result dot response text. The response text will be forwarders on. So now, if the Ajax request is equal to forwarders on, then document.get element by ID of forward button, that is the ID dot value. We get that value and we make it forward off. So now without refreshing the page using the Ajax, we have updated it to forward off. And same applies for all the button clicks. So now, so this is how the program is done. I will attach this program file on the description, so you can check with that. Thank you so much.